Sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May our homage to our teacher Bhante, Pinna Loku Swamin Wahanse, say sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, friends. We were studying about the mindfulness on the mind according to the Satipatthana Sutta. Let's go and read that sutta before we go to the discussion. As a reminder. So this is how the Buddha instructed to be mindful on our mind. What they say, and how does a mendicant meditate observing an aspect of the mind? How do you start your meditation on the aspect of the mind, which means being mindful over the mind? As we learned, the mind can only stay in one mental state at a time. So in its own way, there are moments that the mind brings the specific mental states. And in those moments, Buddha taught this way. It is when a mendicant understands with mind with the greed as mind with the greed, and mind without the greed as mind without the greed. So that is the meditation. So observing the mind according to this way, especially the practice here is the understanding, which means the pajanati. When we understand that mental state, that way we develop mindfulness over the mind. We can be mindful over our mind if we get to know and understand specific moments that this mind has. Sometimes we have mind with greed, which means literally, which means the greedy mind. There is greediness in our mind. In that moment, actually, this is an intentional activity that we do, that we put our intentional force onto our mind to get to know about that mental state specifically through 100% mindfulness. You can say it is the reflecting the mind, reflexive aspect of the mind over the mind. You can say that way also, but you do intentionally. You are not drifting all the way according to the mental state, but you pause and you try to observe that just as it is. So this person understand, okay, in this moment I have a greedy mind. And next there can be a moment that the greediness releases. The greediness won't stay like that forever, but it can be momentarily, it can release, it can escape. In that moment also, we don't forget to observe that mind. We try to mindful over that mental state. Okay, this time I don't have that greed I had before. Mind without greed. Probably when we see something or hear something, we might have the greed. Immediately that this greediness can arise inside of us in that moment. Rather than chasing after the object that brought us the greed, we normally pause and we try to observe inside because we need to be mindful. So we understand, okay, because of seeing this, because of hearing this, I got this kind of a mental state. Now I have a greedy mind. Now all the way you stay focused to look and see what happens into the mind. Then you might find that the mind goes away, like mind, the mental state, the greedy mind goes away. Then you understand that one also. Then that teaches us a good information, that teaches us a great knowledge, the nature of the mind. So we get to understand, okay, mind is not permanent, mind is changing, mind is impermanent. Similar to that, Buddha says, understand the mind with hate, mind without hate, mind with delusion, and mind without delusion. I said that even though that this word greed is limited to some level of uh, our reactions in our life. So we can say someone, when someone is like greedy to the food, we can say, oh, you are a greedy person to the food. You always find this food, so you are greedy. But that doesn't mean that the greediness almost always has to be something external, but it can also be internal greediness, which means that if there are thoughts, the thoughts can also be latched into us because of the greediness, because of the connection, because of the attachment of of the greediness, the attachment that brings the greediness that brings the attachment to this thought. So we can have attachment to the thoughts, and it can be a way of like having greed. How do we normally abandon the greed? In the Buddhism, there is a special practice that teaches us to abandon the greed, that motivates us to abandon the greed. What is that practice? Do you know? That's called dana. Dana means generosity. When we give something, that is an kind of an inspiration that we are developing in us, how it is not to have the greedy thought. Because normally, before we giving something to another, we have some kind of an attachment to that. But when we give something to another, we rejoices in that person's happiness because of our activity, and we can later on rejoice in our activity, our actions that we did because of the generosity. So this inspires how it is like to be when we don't have greed. This revolution of abandoning the greedy mind starts from physical things in our day-to-day life. Probably we can spend our time in our room, but also we can go out and make a food or make a tea and offer it to another. So there can be an attachment to the thoughts that we would like to be somewhere. But if we dedicate that, we are kind of like handling that thought that we have attached inside to let go. So we give the service, we normally offer something, we give a food or something. So in that moment, we can see that there might be greed, and because of doing something, we abandon that greed. The point here is that sometimes there are greediness to the thoughts. In the meditation, when we are going to meditate, there can be thoughts come to the mind, and it can still be the greedy mind. If we didn't have the greed into the thoughts, our thoughts become more relaxed, more peaceful. We become more mindful. We become more clear in our head. So we can easily focus to the breathing. But it's not happening like that. We see the mind is wandering. Now what we do according to these instructions is that when the mind is in greed, let's say in this case wandering mind, we get to know, we understand this moment, my mind is wandering. Mind is wandering. So we need to see this distinction, this separation of the mind, of the meditation and the greedy mind. Separation of the meditation and also this wandering mind. Separation means sometimes we can be starting the breathing meditation, but in a split second we might be lost in somewhere into the greedy thoughts, a thought, some kind of a thought. So that thought can bring us more wandering thoughts. Now we get to know, okay, this is not my meditation. Because of that, I will come back to my breathing. I will come back to my meditation. So I just tried to uh, share some teachings about what is the greediness inside of a meditation, because sometimes we think, oh, the greediness might be only for the food or something. But no, we have greediness means, like you can say in another similar English word, you can say longing, that you desire, that you want, that you crave. Because of our internal addiction to fantasize the thoughts, it won't allow us to develop the meditations, right? What we do is that we try to understand that mental state. Okay, I have this mental state right now. And sometimes we don't have greed. Then we understand we don't have greed. The mind is without greed. Actually, according to this method, that you are developing mindfulness, you are still in the practice. You are still increasing your mindfulness. Wandering mind can be used to develop the mindfulness. All the way we can use this mindful scope to acquire some kind of an object to develop mindfulness. Once it was on the breathing, but next our mind was wandering, and that wandering can also be understood according to the mental state, and we can still keep focusing to that, and that way, even there, even the negativity, we develop mindfulness. Okay, we develop mind. This is not to be confused with the ambitions we have. Sometimes we have goals, we need to achieve things in our day-to-day life. Even in our long run, we might be planning to gain something in the future. Actually, that is not the greediness. I mean, when it comes to an ambition, it won't be a greediness, but the true greediness can be blocking us to go to our ambition. Let's say there is a child, so the child wanna do the studies and wanna attain some kind of a goal in the studies or in the education. But if that child is greedy to social media or to scrolling or only to watch videos, that can be a greediness. So this actual greediness is blocking the way to attain the ambition. You see, uh, almost always this greed is clouding us. Buddha says in a teaching, Ratto attan najanati. Ratto means the one who is greedy. Attan najanati. Atta means the correct thing, the proper thing, or the truth, or you can say Dhamma. Kuddho attan najanati. So that, no, ratto attanna janati. Ratto means the one who is greedy, does not see the truth or the proper thing or what to do, what not to do. Ratto atta napassati, does not understands and does not sees when that person is greedy. There are moments that we were greedy, but we don't really like that. But still, we had that greedy mind. Sometimes the greediness escapes from the morality. The morality. So the greedy mind can take us away from the morality. There can be things that should not do. This person might do that because of being motivated by the greed. Okay, we have an interesting sutta today. Let's go to that and let's see what the Buddha taught about greed, anger, and delusion and how to understand. Okay, uh, here what I'm going to do is to explain and share the teachings from the Buddha about this understanding because this can be confusing. Pajanati, what exactly is this understanding when those mental states are arising? In English, we simply say it's understanding, but this can be hard to grasp. So what we do is that we go to the suttas, how Buddha teach that, and we try to understand according to the Buddha's own idea. So how it is like when a person fully understood that mental state. This is not just mere awareness. It is not that mere being attentive or being focused, but it has a lot to teach us. Anya Tittiya Sutta, followers of other religion, which means it has a message, which means it can be hard to understand without the faith. Followers of the other religions. Now Buddha says this, mendicants, if a wanderers of other religions were to ask, there are these three things. What three? They asked, greed, hate, and delusion. Rago, doso, moho. Other people ask. They says to you that there are these three, raga, dosa, moha, greed, hate, delusion. What is the difference between them? They would ask you, what is the difference in them? Because the Buddha teaches you about these mental states, and how can you understand separately? How would you answer them? Buddha says that if they were to ask you, how do you answer? Then the monks didn't jump into the conversation and said, okay, we know Buddha. Why do you want to teach us? No, they said, our teachings are rooted in the Buddha. They developed faith. They said how much they have their faith in them to the Buddha. Our teachings are rooted in the Buddha. He is our guide and our refuge. Sir, may the Buddha himself please clarify the meaning of this. The mendicants will listen and remember it. We are going to remember however the Buddha teaches us because Buddha is our teacher and we are the students and you are our refuge. Please, Buddha, teach that. So that way they expressed their gratitude and their faith into the Buddha. So that is why these monks reduced the ego and the pride or that conceit so that the teachings can easily flow to their minds. Then the Buddha said this, well then, mendicants, listen and apply your mind well, I will speak. I'm going to teach you. Then they said, yes, sir, they replied. The Buddha said this, mendicants, if wanderers of the other religions were to ask, there are these three things. What three? Greed, hate, delusion. These are the three things. What's the difference between them? You should answer them like this way. Let's go first to the Pali. Rago ko auso appa savajjo danda viragi. Danda viragi. Doso mahasavajjo kippa viragi. Moho mahasavajjo danda viragiti. Sorry. Great reverence is mildly blameworthy but slow to fade away. Hate is very blameworthy but quick to fade away. Delusion is very blameworthy and slow to fade away. Okay, did you get that? Which means Buddha says greed reverence is mildly blameworthy. Blameworthy can be seen in all the three. Do you see that? Do you see that all the three, greed, anger, delusion, has this blameworthiness? But there are stages, levels. When it comes to the greed, it's mildly blameworthy. You can criticize the greed, but it's mildly blameworthy. But only compared to the hate. Okay? Compared to the delusion. Doesn't mean that it is not, greed is not blameworthy at all, but it's blameworthy compared to the hate, it's mildly. Compared to the delusion, it's mildly blameworthy. But slow to fade away. When greediness comes to the mind, it can stay ages. Slow to fade away. It can stay for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a month, or an year. It can stay with us. Why? Because it's slow to fade away. But when it comes to the blameworthiness, how much that is cause suffering is mildly blameworthy. Here the blameworthy means the effect that it has, the kind of the outcome it has, kind of its reaction is mildly. Its reaction to the society and to ourselves, to the people around us and also to the ourselves. When we have greed to the food, greediness to some kind of an object or to a person or to any kind of things that we interact with our day-to-day life, it brings some kind of a mental state, which means the longing for that. But it affects the society and it affects ourselves too, which means that it has an expression. We express ourselves through that greed. I need that. I want to get that. I want to see that. I want to listen to that. I want to take this. But when it comes to the greedy mental state, it's slow to fade away. It can stay for long because it has an immediate gratification. When we think about the greed, it brings enjoyment. Doesn't the greed has enjoyment? Until the day that we get what we greed for, we live in that greediness, greedy mind, this fantasy that, okay, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna eat this food, I'm gonna listen to this, I'm gonna go there, I'm gonna go here. So there is this greedy mental state, but slow to fade away. Mildly blameworthy, slow to fade away. But the hate is very blameworthy, which means the damage that it caused is very deep, like very harmful, very blameworthy. It can be criticized all the way. Like you can say the hate is very dangerous. It can bring danger to oneself and it can bring danger to the others too, to the society. Sometimes you see like people that are hateful and live in the hate and stay with that hate. And by doing that, they immediately react, and it can cause a lot of big problems to the people around. And for sure, that this person would later regret, and this person would also get so much damage. Hate is very blameworthy, but the nature of the hate is very quick to fade away. The hate can easily fade away. Hate can easily go away compared to the greed. We might be able to abandon the hate easily because we see it has a big impact on us. Like it has kind of a like negative energy that come to us. Let's say that we got angry. Angry is not cooling. Does it cools us? Does it relaxes us? Does it brings even a better sleep? Does it brings like any calmness? No. When we got angry, our body changes. We get headache. We get pain in the body. Sometimes people get heart attack. And sometimes all the body like trembles. Sometimes people clench, bite their teeth out of anger, out of hate. Very blameworthy, but quick to fade away. That can easily fade away. Because of seeing this, we might think of later, oh, why I did this, why I got angry. So we would let go that. Why would I got angry? Immediately, when we see the drawback, we would immediately remove that. It would go away from us. But greed is not like that. Greed is not showing us that much impact, that much effect, how it causes us pain. But we live in pain because of the greediness. You look at the Jataka stories, you can find a lot of stories about the greed and how much the Buddha was in the previous life was slave to the greed and got a lot of problems. Because the sutta is interesting, I don't go to the story, but there are many stories if you can read on the Jatakas, the greed. Sometimes people wake up all night long because of the greedy thoughts. Sometimes people long for days and days and years to get something that they wanted because it has some gratification. So because of this reason, it is still blameworthy because when it comes to the mindfulness, it loses mindfulness. We might not accept that, but that is the true. That's the true nature. But it brings irritation. I mean, there is no greed that we won't get any irritation. But when I mean, in our normal life, we normally have two ways to react to our greed. Normally, we chase after what we wanted. That's the one way. But other times we have like, we think, okay, I will forget about what I have like greed. I will forget about that. So these are two ways that we manage that. Else we would go what we desired. Else we can uproot and abandon the desire, greed, and stay calm. In the teachings, you can find that second one. The Buddha teaches you to uproot the greed and live calm. Again, doesn't mean the ambitions, doesn't mean the attainments, doesn't mean about achieving things. But the Buddha says that when you get greed, if you don't abandon that, it can bring you irritation. It can bring you restlessness. It can bring you wandering mind. There is a person who sit down to meditate, but with a greedy mind. Then everything come to the mind is from the information of the greedy mind. It can bring us something that we desired. So we might not doing the breathing, but we might be struggling with this mental state. Buddha says, no, you don't need to struggle. You just understand. Now I have the greedy mind. Okay. Greed, reverence is mildly blameworthy, but slow to fade away. Hate is very blameworthy, but quick to fade away. It immediately disappears compared to the greed. But Buddha says the delusion is very blameworthy and slow to fade away. Delusion means ignorance. Delusion means Delusion means not knowing the true nature of the life. Delusion means avidya or the ignorance, or you can say delusion means the confusion that we have. Very blameworthy because it can stay not only one life, single life, but it can go to the samsara. We go all the way in the samsara for this life and to the future because of the delusion. Because of the delusion, Buddha says one cannot release from the rebirth. Buddha says you cannot let go rebirth, old age, sickness, and death without abandoning greed, anger, delusion. Tayodhamma Sutta. In the Tayodhamma Sutta, Buddha says, without abandoning greed, anger, delusion, you cannot release from all the sickness, death, separation, and all that suffering come to us through the samsara. Which means the enlightened being doesn't have these three defilements. Now, delusion is very blameworthy, slow to fade away, which means it won't go easily. It stays with us. How long it takes, how much it's slow? It is slow until that we understand the greedy mind as greedy mind. Until we understand hateful mind as hateful mind. Delusion mind as deluded mind. Until that we understand the true nature of the life. It will stay. Delusion. The greed and hate exist because of the delusion. Why it is very blameworthy compared to the other things, while mild is greed and very blameworthy is hate, but why delusion is also very blameworthy? Because that's the base. That is the foundation for all the distracted thoughts, all the mental states, confusing mental states, all the negative states. It is the delusion, is the forerunner. Mm. Uh, it's amazing, like Buddha did his dispensation, his order. Buddha shared what he become awakened. He did that teaching, and it was like existing until 2,600 years ago. It is still that exists in the world, and we are using those fruits, and we are meditating accordingly. And we Buddha made that kind of an system in the world, like order of the Buddha in the world, but without anger, without greed, without delusion. I mean, how did he made these teachings to be visible after 2,600 years ago as the same without greed? He made this monk order, nuns order, disciples, laymen, laywomen, without having greed. So, yeah. So, which means that he had the ambition that my teaching should be protected in the future, but it doesn't mean that Buddha didn't have, Buddha had greed. Something to think about. Yeah, we will continue the teaching next week. It's a really interesting one. Yeah. So the practice for us is that when the mind has these mental states, try to understand them. Take it as a meditation. I mean, you don't necessarily need a meditation to meditate. You can simply be mindful about the mental states because this is being taught as the third foundation to the mindfulness, which means this is a very effective mindfulness practice. If you can observe the greedy mind just as it is without reacting, without fighting with it, You can refer to the last week discussion we had. We talked about that. We just comprehend that mental state. We understand that mental state. And when we get hate, we understand. Just now I got angry. Now I have this angry mental state. And delusion, I have now this delusion. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, friends. Thank you so much for joining in the meditation and the Dhamma talk. By the power of this merit, may you soon be able to attain the perfect bliss of mind, Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you so much. Take care, friends. Good night.
Thank you very much, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante. Namo Buddhaya.
Thank you, Bhante.
Have a nice evening.
Namo Buddhaya.
Thank you, Bhante. Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Buddhaya, Bhante.
Namo Buddhaya, Bhante. Thank you so much.
Namo Buddhaya, Bhante.
Namo Buddhaya.
Bhante, I'm going to close the session.
Bhante.
Okay.